welcome everyone. It's great to see so many friends and smiling faces. Thanks to each of you for taking time away from your busy schedules and your families to join us this evening. Our plan is to spend about an hour here discussing the state of the school, and then we'll adjourn for a brief tour and a 3-minute toast for our new lower school commons. My name is Chip Pettengill, and I'm a Country Day lifer from the class of 1979. I'm privileged to serve as Country Day's board president. My family has a long history with the school. My father and brother also attended Country Day, as did my wife, Lisa. Lisa's father, John Rauschenbusch, served as Country Day's headmaster for 15 years, and our 3 children, Grace, John, and Sam, are all students here. I mention this because despite this long connection to the school, not a week goes by in which I don't gain a new and greater appreciation for the complexities of school management. It's fascinating, and even more importantly, it's rewarding, deeply rewarding to be part of such a collaborative enterprise where each of us plays a valuable role. Whether it's manning the bounce house at Fall Fest or making a contribution to the annual fund, we need you. Whether it's planting flower bulbs at campus beautification or inviting a talented prospective student to campus, we need you. Get involved, and I promise you and your family will get much more out of it than you put into it. Before turning the mic over to Rob, I wanted to give you a little perspective on Dr. McCrae. When Rob arrived almost 10 years ago, he challenged our community on this stage to make Country Day one of the premier schools in this region, if not the country. Under Rob's leadership, Country Day has thrived. Strong academics, accomplished art and athletic programs, stable divisional leadership, good enrollment growth, new facilities, increased giving levels, talented faculty, and impressive college placements. These are all reinforcing things that support our belief in the transformative powers of our world-class education. Tonight, Rob will report on where we are as a school, challenge us on where we can go, and remind us of our roles in the Country Day Collaborative. I strongly encourage you to join in. Together we've achieved a great deal, and together we will continue to support the priorities that will ensure Country Day will grow even stronger and healthier for our children and generations to come. Thank you, and now here's Rob.
And that was a really nice introduction from Chip. It is really amazing that Chip's the board chair with his wife, Lisa, and the history they have with the school, and it really reminds us of the tradition and the history of Cincinnati Country Day School. They've been amazing how they've opened their house to have development functions, to we had a faculty party, a barn party where we even square danced, and so let's give a round of applause. So the purpose of the meeting tonight is for me to update you about where the school is and to ask for your participation and your involvement in the collaborative that is Country Day. I think you always want to start when you think about a school or an organization about what the mission statement is of the organization. And so Cincinnati Country Day School provides each student with superior preparation for college and life. We inspire passion for learning and independent thinking through a steadfast commitment to academic excellence, personal integrity, and service to others. We intentionally, when we wrote this in 2007, tried to make it very crisp, something that people could remember, but we also wanted to be aspirational. We really talked about putting words like superior in there. Do we mean that? Is that something that we can achieve? And so it's certainly aspirational and something that leads us to focus on our decisions of do they lend to fulfilling the mission. I love reading Thomas Friedman, either his books or his columns, and so often we're hearing today about the importance of education, and the income distribution is changing quickly, and I think today more so than ever a good education is incredibly valuable and essential in today's economy. Average is over, employees have access to cheap labor, cheap robotics, and cheap software. He then went on to talk about what successful students are doing, and that successful students are those who feel real ownership of their education. In the best performing schools, students feel they personally can make a difference in their own outcomes, and their education will make a difference in their future. And so we've talked a lot about this, and tonight we're going to talk about ownership, both that the children need to have of their own education, and then how do we work together as a school of jointly owning Cincinnati Country Day School. So in the economic downturn, 2008 into 2009, we said, well, how are we going to get ourselves out of this? Enrollment had dipped down to about 750 students. There was fear in people's eyes, and can we afford independent education? Is it worth it? And so what we did there, and what my natural instincts were, is to appeal to the community. If we're going to get out of this tough spot, we're going to do it together as a community. And so we had an evening much like this, and we called it the Enrollment Engagement Evening, because enrollment was, as I said, we had dipped to 750 students, and enrollment was an area that we really need to focus on. Other schools were scrambling to put up billboards and put TV commercials on, and what our strategy was to really define ourselves as a collaborative, a cooperative, and that the best way to dig ourselves out was to find the strength in the community and to have people reach out and invite people to campus. And later on we'll discover that many of you are here today because you were invited to campus by people during this enrollment engagement period. So the next thing we had to do was we had to create a marketing campaign. And coming from the East Coast, just outside of New York City, the notion of having to market education was something that I almost thought was dirty or cheap, that, you know, should a school really be marketing itself, and what's your brand image, and all this Procter & Gamble speak that I didn't quite understand. No offense, Procter & Gamble people, we love you. But we started to talk about, well, what would the campaign look like? What would our marketing campaign look like? And all of a sudden, we started talking about it being the My Day campaign, and what separates Country Day from other schools is this notion of ownership, and that the children own this school. In the high school, we don't make very many directional decisions without checking if it's okay with the kids, you know, and so they own this, or they start to own it in kindergarten or before, and they need to own their education. There's a real difference when you are learning for yourself rather than just learning to please the adults and learning to memorize and whatever else. And so this was something I could buy into, right? This is who I was as an educator, and a philosophy that I could agree with and buy into. And so all of a sudden we start talking about the My Day campaign. We talk about the grassroots approach of creating a community, and so it all started to fit together. Parent ambassador groups, got to learn about social media, which was pretty exciting. I'm still trying to keep up with that. But, so we created this My Day campaign, and students started filling out cards. We had them on your tables, and talking about how magical their days were at school, and it really started to get some legs. And then we started making the My Day posters celebrating different people's days at school. And so we have young children as they move up through the divisions, really highlighting what happens in their days. Through the high school, faculty, they're owning the school as well, and so we celebrate the faculty and what they're up to. Families, they own the school, so they own the education. So it really started to get some momentum, and it's working. And so we're really getting incredible momentum. And so let me tell you one metric and go through a metric of how I can say this with confidence, that this notion of the collaborative of us joining together as a community to run this school is working. And so we're going to go to some hard statistics here. And so last year we did a survey. Many of you people took it. About 1,000 people filled out the surveys. Here are the numbers of which groups of people filled out the surveys. And so we surveyed 1,000 people, and they were asked 75 questions. And I've decided to go over 10 of the questions with you because I think they were the most important questions to say, how is a school functioning? And so when we look at these questions, we're going to look at how Country Day did versus where we were 7 years ago, and how we did in the ISACS stands for Independent Schools Association of Central States. And there's about 250 schools that are part of this association. And we meet to do professional development activities, and they do some other functions, but they also are an accrediting body, and so that's why these surveys went through them. So all 250 schools need to give similar surveys so we can compare ourselves to how are we doing versus the competition or versus schools in Chicago or Louisville or all across the Midwest. And so it gives us a standard, a benchmark that we can compare ourselves, take our temperature, and see how are we doing as a school. And so the first topic that we're going to look at is community, because we've defined that if we want to move the dial as a school, we need to create a community and a sense of community. How are people feeling about being part of the community? And so we look at the first statistic here, and so I'm going to show you how to read these. The blue is where we are in 2012, so last spring when we got these results. The red is where we were 7 years ago, and the green is the ISACS average, either median or average, so where the standard is across the Midwest. And so I'm going to show you 10 slides of different statistics. The students are first, right? We're all about the students. And so the students will be the far left. And then where are you as parents? How are you feeling about things as parents? The faculty are always a great barometer of how a school is doing, right? Are we speaking the same language? Are we moving in the same direction? Of course, like when you look at any organization, whether it's for-profit or non-profit, are the employees buying into the mission? Are they believing that we're all working together to achieve the same thing? So you got the faculty, you got this incredible group of trustees that volunteer their time to serve the school, and of course the alumni, who are the keepers of the tradition, and certainly have a great deal of pride with having gone to Country Day. So these are the groups that we're looking at. And so the first one is sense of community. Important to me that the students feel good about that. You're going to see that the trustees have really bought in. So we get really good marks on the trustees here. So sense of community first, right? So then we're going to go to our mission statement. So, and I shift to this mission statement because it really needs to be embedded in who we are. And so we've got it on our dining terrace, we have it in the classrooms. Do people understand why Country Day exists and what we're trying to achieve? Okay, so let's see where we are in terms of, is the mission known first? So this is, do you feel you know what Country Day is trying to do, what it's trying to achieve? And so we see really big, this was a big change from where we were 7 years ago with the faculty. So before there was some mixed feelings about what Country Day was, where we were trying to go, and we've seen improvement. This is the one that I'm most proud of here, and the parents have a better sense of that there's alignment with what the school and who the school is and what we're trying to achieve, is what our mission is. And then I'm equally excited about, because we talked about in 2007 when we did the mission, we said to ourselves, is it too lofty? Is it too, aspirational? And I think it's pretty exciting how people are feeling. I wasn't even sure the students were reading the mission as they walked by it all the time, right? And they go from 60% believing that we're achieving the mission to 89%. So something's happening. They're buying into what we're doing. And what's really cool about the students buying into, and this is mostly 7th and 8th and then high school students, is these kids are working harder than any other school in the city and hopefully the Midwest, right? These kids are working really, really hard. And they're buying into the hard work, and they're enjoying what they're doing. We'll look at some other areas where you can see they're having fun too. The faculty too, look at the improvement there. And again, on all but 4 categories, and we'll review this later, we beat or exceeded the Isaac standard there. And we'll talk about that statistic. So you'll see that is, I don't know why that keeps jumping up. So this was an important kind of your total gauge of where we are as an institution. If you can only give one grade, this is how you would grade an institution. The next thing is academic achievement. That is our bread and butter. That's who we are, and that's why we exist. That's a top reason all of you are here. The statistics say that in independent schools, the top reasons people choose independent schools is academic achievement. So you better be doing well there. Actually, that's always been Country Day's bread and butter. So not a lot of growth there, but people are buying into this is an academic school, and all's well on the academics. So check that off the list. So then we start looking at, well, what parts of academics, what are we doing well with academics? And so one of the areas that I'm really proud of with Country Day is, and if you sit at the lunch table listening to the faculty, is talking about, well, what tools do we have to teach the children? What do the children need to be prepared for? What does road education even mean today when you can Google things? Do you even need road knowledge anymore? You do need to know the times table, I'm sure of that, but what other road information do you need and what don't you need? And so I think we're really doing well in this, and so we're really knocking it out of the park in terms of how other schools really struggle with trying to be innovative. Education, American education, or education around the world really struggles with progress and change. And so what I think we do well at Country Day is we look at ourselves and say, how can we get better? How can we change? And while our technology is world-renowned, it's not just technology. It's thinking about the role of emotions and how does that play into learning? How does community play into learning? How are children going to remember things? What skills do they need? And so, yes, we're off the charts with the picture of the computer and technology, and we'll talk about that later. But it's not just technology. And so this one, as you would expect with our reputation, we just crushed where we were, and certainly look at how other faculties feel about themselves on an industry average, right? They, at other places, they know that they're dinosaurs and not moving at the pace that education needs to move. Character. Country Day ought to be great at character, right? If we're going to have all these great resources, we better be teaching moral and ethical citizens, right? Moral and ethical leaders. And so here we are showing great improvement and above all the industry standards in that area. Very important to me that the kids are buying into what we're doing with character. Are they feeling that this makes sense, and and so the high marks there to me was very important, right? You go to Country Day, you're going to be a person of character. You're going to do things ethically, you're going to be kind, you're going to do the right thing. And do the right thing when nobody's watching. Not just because you're going to get in trouble if you don't do the right thing, because it's the right thing to do. And we work on that from 18 months to 18 years. And so, very proud of this one. I think that the slogan should go, I don't think in general surveys they like this, I think every child should be known and loved. That should be the aspiration of a school. Every child should be known and loved. This question was, do the children feel well known? So statistics are, we crushed where we were before. Oops, I want this number to be higher though. Why are 14% of our kids not feeling like they're well known? We want this number to be higher. I mean, I want every child to be known and loved and feel that way at Country Day. I'm excited to see that the faculty feel we're doing a much better job, and that from their perspective, they feel that all the children are known. And so we're small enough that we can know the children, but we're very deliberate about doing things to know the children, particularly when we get bigger in the high school. And so I was really excited to see the faculty number there. The parents feel that their children are well known. So another area to judge a school, are children known. Then a couple other areas that kind of talk about the tone of the school and the ethos of the school. So how are we feeling about diversity? What are the diversity numbers? Because if we want to have a really well-functioning, safe community, we ought to be diverse, and we ought to feel good about it. So the numbers with diversity are terrific. What I see here, while we beat the average, our alumni are behind. They're not realizing that what's going on in the school yet. We haven't caught up in this area with the alumni. And so all the other numbers are much higher, but the alumni don't realize yet that Country Day's moved in this direction, and feel that we need to improve there. But look at how the kids were feeling 7 years ago compared to today in this area. These are important things in terms of sense of community, feeling safe, being part of the community. Positive school spirit, it's a great picture, isn't it? They're ready to go here. And so, if we're going to ask the children to work as hard as they do, they ought to have a lot of fun and really enjoy the experience. And so we do a lot of things to really make Country Day fun every day. And so you can see here the kids are buying into the spirit from where we were, and certainly to the average of what the industry averages are. Boys and girls, are they being treated equally? Country Day has been good at that for a while, so not a lot of improvement. This was the only topic that we didn't score better than we did in the past. And so right here is the only place where we didn't beat where we were 7 years ago. And it was because one trustee didn't vote this. Because it was 16 out of 17 trustees picked it here, whereas 15 out of 15 years. So we missed it by one trustee, and I want to know who you are. So, to review, we had 7 constituency groups, 75 questions, 525 places to measure ourselves. So if you think about it in terms of wins and losses, we either won or tied on 521 out of the 525 metrics that we got to measure ourselves. So that's pretty exciting. That means that objectively, statistically, people are buying into what we're doing, and we have the ability to move forward. Do we need to continue to improve? Absolutely. But I thought this was a good objective measure that in education it's hard to get objective statistics. And so I thought that it was a good way for this year to look at the school. When we look at the school and try to evaluate it in other years when we don't have the statistics versus the industry average, we're going to have to be more creative in terms of how we're evaluating ourselves. We do a lot of surveying. I hope not too much, because we send you a lot of surveys. So we're always interested in your voice, and as the children get older, we're very interested in their voice. And so we do a lot of surveying in the high school as well. A couple other ways to think about measuring a school. What are the kids doing? So we're getting great kids at Country Day, and they are getting incredible opportunities to go off to college. And the wonderful thing is when they go off to college, and I'm going to look at a couple parents and they're going to nod here whose children have already gone off to college, they are really well prepared to attend the top universities in the country. And we hear that consistently when they come back from their freshman year, sophomore year, how well prepared they were to thrive at the top universities in the country. So I think that that's a great way to measure a school, and that metrics is alive and well. And the faculty. And so we have a great, great faculty at Cincinnati Country Day School. And so let's give them a round of applause for how amazing they are. So what I wish I could have done was gotten a picture of every one of them, but this is a representative shot of the faculty, and we are on a time limit. So now what I'm going to do is just kind of meander through a couple of things that have been fun this year. What's great is we have people that are past parents, we have some alumni, and then we have parents of children 18 months to 18 years. So the real joy of being the head of schools, I get to see all these things, and people are picking up bits and pieces of this. So let me just tell you some of the fun that I get to see and some of the exciting things. So one update is we're in the middle of a national search for our athletic director. The candidates are being interviewed this week, and by the end of January we should have a new athletic director. It's more of an update. We had a great fall season with the boys and girls soccer, girls tennis, golf, and football had an undefeated regular season. Coach Dunn had his 200th win. How about you, Coach Dunn? The arts, we've got plays, we've got the new glass kiln, which has been really exciting. We have some of the glass outside the theater that hopefully you'll be able to see on your way out if you didn't see it coming in. We have 2 evenings of the arts where we have an art exposition where everybody comes and the children show off and talk about their art, which is always a nice night for the school. Our technology is world renowned. Rob Baker was flown to Prague last year by Microsoft to be in a symposium there and to tell people from 30 different countries what's happening at Cincinnati Country Day School and what technology breakthroughs we're doing there. We have 4 conferences a year where we educate educators about what we're doing at Country Day, and they always leave dazzled. And what's really cool about that is somebody will come and thank me personally, and they'll say, you know, it's not just the technology, it's the atmosphere in the classrooms and things like that. So we're the first school in the country to put these tablets out, and they're detachable, so you can read them like a tablet, but you can use a fully functioning laptop as well, so we were very excited about that. Rob actually helped Fujitsu design this and develop this. He was amazing. He was telling me about this 5 years ago. Rob, what they need to do is to be able to do this, and so all of a sudden they got that, so that was pretty exciting. This is just new this year, and so why I was doing, there are a lot of other flipping the paradigm and other things we're doing with the computers, but, and my daughter's been doing this once a week, is they get language coaching from a language teacher from the country of the language, and so we're using video conferencing to do that, and so that's been a fun thing. I'm going to show you a 3-minute video that Microsoft has made, but it's about Cincinnati Country Day Schools, so here we go.
Cincinnati Country Day School is a private school located in the suburbs of Cincinnati, Ohio. We have about 850 students currently in pre-K through 12. One of our major tenets here at Country Day is the integration of technology across the curriculum. In the classroom, in education as a teacher, writing, annotating, sketching, highlighting, and drawing are a huge part of the teaching and learning process. We really do want to have it all, and the only way to have it all is with a Windows 8 tablet PC.
The Windows 8 tablets has changed the way I work with my students because it does so much more for me. I'm able to, with Microsoft OneNote, use the shared notebooks, which has cut my grading time by 2/3. So I have more time to devote to my students during the school day.
The Windows 8 tablets has made my work with the students very personal. As I use OneNote, I see exactly what they're doing automatically.
Running Windows 8 has been by far the best deployment we've ever had. It was an easy transition for us. Everything that ran in Windows 7 runs on Windows 8. It's essential that you have a full operating system so that you can run the programs that you want to run. So you can put the SD card in to get the camera roll for a class that you're involved in.
I really like the split screen on the Windows 8 tablet because then I can do things like during science, we use the periodic table, and it's nice to refer back to the periodic table and the other like homework or other assignments that I'm doing.
With the Windows 8 tablet, I'm able to use the Vernier lab probes, and with those we can measure oxygen and carbon dioxide levels, and the students use those to do different labs in class.
I use digital ink all the time. Mathematics can be hard sometimes, but when you are using digital ink, it makes it come alive.
I really like using the tablet for math and science because there's a lot of programs that me and my teacher can connect to, and we don't have to like write a question on the board and take unnecessary time. She just writes it on the tablet and I can see it.
I really do believe in terms of technology integration and devices, you really can have it all. We have focused on finding the best implementation, the most powerful way to affect the teaching and learning process. We have realized and recognized what a game-changing device a Windows tablet PC is.
So please excuse the advertisement part of that. We did get $500 from Microsoft for showing all of you that, but it was an easy way for me to get you inside the classrooms in a real quick and current way in terms of getting a feel of, well, how are we using these devices? So, and it really has worked out well for us. And I think it speaks volumes that Microsoft needed us to make that case study there. So. I'm going to make a neat shift here. So now we're going to talk about outdoor play and exploration. And I hired Kaki Shear this year, who's taught at the Cincinnati Nature Center and was a teacher in Seattle. And so her charge has been to get the lower school students out and learn how to play in nature and how to discover nature. And so we've been getting children out on hikes, on explorations, discovering things, doing projects outside, and my fundamental belief is our society is disconnecting children from nature, and that's a horrible thing, and we need to move back to having the children feel comfortable to play in the woods, to know how to be outside. And so part of it is also unstructured play, that children need the time to discover on their own and not always be told what to do, and you're going to this game with this referee and things like that. And so what we're hoping to do is to reconnect Country Day children 18 months to 18 years to nature, and some of it's going to be an unstructured play, and some of it's going to be very structured with a gardening program and other things outside. And so we're just in the infant stages of this. And here's a great picture. One morning I went out as we were beginning to think about our playscape, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And I was out walking. There were 3 or 4 classes out together in the woods, back in the trail in the woods. And there were probably 30 kids out there, and they had the 33 and 4-year-olds, right? And they have this stick policy where you're allowed to hold a stick, but you're not allowed to raise it over your waist. But they were all being so well behaved. It was just extraordinary to see this group of children, such a large group. There were 4 or 5 teachers out there, but the children were so content, and just you could see that kind of deep breath that they had taken and the difference in their temperament. It actually started to rain, and I thought, okay, these are going to be modern kids. They're going to melt if it rains, and not one of them thought about, oh, I have to run inside because it's starting to rain. So we're making some headway with our youngest children, and this is something that I want to be K-12, and we're going to find different ways to do it for the different ages. But so what a cool balance that is, right? One of the top schools in the world in technology, but yet really connected to the environment, slowing down, getting away from the screens, and getting back to nature. We're working with, here we go, yeah. The person who started the applause is the director of the Cincinnati Nature Center. Just thank you, hug. So Bill and I have talked a lot about how important this notion of getting children back, and Richard Lou's statement of nature deficit disorder, or children are suffering from nature deficit disorder. So a lot more to follow, and I'll show you in our master plans of how we wanted to start our program first programmatically. How can we prepare for this? And now we're going to work on our facilities to make sure we have really great spaces for our children to be outside. Cornerstone of Country Day is we're so privileged to be here and to be at an independent school and with this great facility, that we better teach our children what that privilege is and the commensurate responsibilities that come with this privilege. And so we spend a ton of time creating the habits of giving back. And if you want to go to Country Day, you're going to learn this, and this is going to be part of who we are. And so everything from campus beautification with the knucklehead middle schoolers to pink ribbon luncheon. We do food drives and the turkey drive. We meet as a community to talk about how important this is. We make a difference day in the middle school. We started really early here with a bike-a-thon, but we mix in the message that we're doing this to serve others. The wrapping's really fun when we get the young children with the older children, and senior boys don't know how to wrap presents. They're being taught by kindergarten girls how to do this. There's always something going on at Country Day. I came up at 6:30 on Saturday working on a project. There were 2 buses here. There was a wrestling bus going to a middle school wrestling match, and there was a math counts or science Olympiad going from the upper school. At 6:30 on a Saturday morning. This place is always, something's always going on here. So we've got Science Expo, Math Counts, Youth Sports, Nature Investigation Club, Stock Market Club. Now, if she were a stock investor, Susie Lewis would be the person to talk to. It is statistically improbable how many trips our students have won to Chicago, to New York, and to Denver. She's won, I think, about 8 trips for children, all expenses paid, by winning the Stock Market Club. So that's a really cool one. Another area that we started, we're about in our 2nd year of the initiative, is if we are going to have such high expectations of our children academically, and we're really going to be a great community, we really need to tend to the wellness of our community, the wellness of our children. And so this year we've started to call it CCDS Strong, and it really is a way to talk about, when we have this symbol up, we're talking about wellness. We're talking about not just how do we treat illness, but how do we stay well? How do we do stress relief? How do we get good nutrition? Are we getting enough physical fitness? How are we managing our time? And so these are things that great schools need to be talking about. Great communities need to be talking about. And so we have a nutrition focus. In the middle school, they're talking about getting enough sleep and the dangers and the perils of multitasking, which they become particularly good at in middle school, right? They got all their devices and things happening. Again, to that outdoor play fits into this wellness. So our advisors are talking about these issues in the middle and high school, and we're working on it in the middle school. And this year, in year 2, we're talking about how can we be more well as adults too? What can we do to make sure that we're treating ourselves as adults, that we can be healthier and stronger as individuals, and then to serve the children. This is a really cool one. We just started this year. The Mission Skills Assessment. And so what we're trying to do in independent schools, we talk about in our mission how great we are at these non-cognitive skills, right? So we talk about teamwork, resilience, creativity, curiosity, ethics, and time management. We've joined a consortium of about 75 schools across the country. And a couple schools are about 2 or 3 years into this. We're joining the consortium this year. And we're going to measure in 6th through 8th graders you can measure how they rate in terms of teamwork, resilience, creativity, curiosity, ethics, and time management. And so we're going to look at, I'm more concerned about how we're doing as a school versus other schools. And so when we go up to Chicago in April, Hirsch and I and Casey Schneeber are going to Chicago in April with the 74 other schools that are doing this, and we're going to say, well, Cincinnati Country Day School did really well in curiosity, but not so well in resilience. What are we doing? What is Greenwich Country Day doing differently from that? What is other schools all across the country? The middle school is developing a common vocabulary to talk about these things. How can we do better to teach these things? If we're going to measure it, we're going to try to teach it. And so we're just getting this started. I think that this is really important and terrific work, and it's going to then move in both directions up to our upper school and then as we're preparing children for the middle school. And so a lot more to follow with this, and I'm very excited about this. So as to review, we're testing children in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. The students give a self-assessment, the teachers assess, and the students also do a situational test as well. So more to follow, and we're very excited about this. Got that already. An area we are having, again, I'd like to really emphasize that we look at ourselves and say, how can we do better? So we're hearing from parents in the lower school about the homework wars and how hard it is for homework, particularly for the children who are staying after school, 2 working parents getting home late. Get home late and let's have that homework clash right away. And so what we've done is we've created an area where the students can stay after school, do their own homework, but they have a grade level teacher available to ask for extra help and set in a very structured setting. And then we've created a creativity discovery club taught by 3 different art teachers that really do some project-based art. The kids are loving it, and we're seeking a little bit more education in there rather than just this long block of time after school that was simply just one type of play. So we've been really excited about that. Here's some pictures of the kids doing that. So now we shift to enrollment and where we are with enrollment. So the first thing, as I talked about with our enrollment engagement, we did a really strong analysis of retention, because retention, I think, is the key element to enrollment. Of course, we need to attract new families, but the most important thing about enrollment is keeping the families you have, making the families you have happy and working with them. One of the cool things we did is we looked at the attrition patterns, and we noticed that students were leaving more often after the first or second year. And so we said, we're not doing a good enough job acclimating new families to Cincinnati Country Day School. We're a close community. And so from there, we've created buddy programs, and the whole, the PA really took that on and said, we're going to create a great buddy program so parents feel really, and the families feel welcome to Country Day. We've done other retention issues. And so we've gone from an average, a couple-year average, close to 12%, now into the 8%. And so if you can increase retention by 3 percentage points, that's 24 students a year that are at play with 3% attrition. And so that's a huge in our budgeting and being able to have our financial sustainability. So the first thing is retention. And so if you see our history of enrollment, we were down, in the middle of the year, we were down to close to 750. So that was a really scary time. And we're up to 845. My ambitious goal is to get to 900 in the next couple of years. That's where our optimal number would be, is 900. And so we're working hard to push towards that. And so we didn't have quite as many new students here, and so I want to really redouble our efforts and to get the word out again about this enrollment engagement notion that we need the whole village to be spreading the word about, hey, come to Country Day and see what's going on, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Re-enrollment, a reminder, if you're wondering when the student contracts are coming in, re-enrollment will go live in the portal Friday, January 24th. We'll be sending you an email to remind you about that, and then contract deposits are due the 15th. So with recruitment, this notion of the collaborative. And again, I don't want to spend money on billboards or commercials. I think that the sense of community has really been a real strength of ours. And John Hall came up with a saying, the power of one. Let's make sure that we can make a difference, that each individual can make a difference. So think about inviting a neighbor, inviting a friend. Hey, just come to campus, feel the magic, feel the energy here. And so what I'm going to do now is notice all their kids spell CCDS if you didn't make that connection. So Sherry McMasters has been working with us through the enrollment engagement. And so I've asked Sherry to come up first, and then Ken's going to come up after, and they're going to talk about what it is to be somebody to pull somebody else to Country Day, and then Ken will talk about what it was like to be pulled. And so let's welcome Sherry McMasters.
So it sounds like a few of you know the McMaster boys. As you can see, we didn't actually plan that the name of boys CCDS. And actually, it was Jane Fritz. One year, she said, "You know, your boys spell CCDS," and she said, "One of these days we have to get a picture." So she'd be happy that we got this picture yesterday. And you can see the senior on the far right left is very happy about this. So I've been here for 13 years, and I have another 13 to go. So I'm kind of in it for the long haul, and that's why Rob and the faculty enjoy the McMasters, because we've got the history to talk through, we've got the future, and we hope to be here. I think it's 2026, so see me on the soccer field out there. So the reason why we're here, Ken and I, and then meet Ken in a minute, is I remember being here in 2009, and I'm listening to his spiel going, "You don't need to pitch me, Rob, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." But then later I realized some of the points that he was making were very snackable and could then be used later when you're talking to another family, you're giving a tour, you're talking to a neighbor, and you remember Rob's talk. So we're going to provide a little more testimonials as examples of how you can engage people, I'm a little bit of an evangelist when it comes to the school, and I work a lot at P&G with some young families, and we talk to a lot to the international families that come in, as well as the Milford community. My husband's a chiropractor in Milford, so he sees a lot of people, and he has his Country Day stickers and his mug, and we often engage in as many conversations as possible. We should actually get some sort of kickback. Just saying. Okay, so one of the pieces you'll see, the theme is that we're all by ourselves in Cincinnati. We're Canadians. We moved here 20 years ago with P&G, and so Country Day is our family. And like I see a lot of teachers in the audience, and I'll start to cry. But you guys are family, and a lot of parents here are my family. And so we're very blessed that we've been here for so long, and that I can call all of you, many of you, family. So here we are. A lot has changed since we looked at the school for Carter. Back when I was actually pregnant, I was one of those keen first-time moms going, I need a school, I'm pregnant. And we came to Country Day, and I remember it had a cool website, right? Even then, it had like the best website in the city. And I remember thinking, that's really great, and it had a really good brochure, and I loved the tour. And of course, we signed up because, you know, between Milford and Kenwood, we kept looking at the school as we would drive by. And I knew because I was working full-time, and so was Brian, that where else were we going to find a preschool that had care from 7:30 to 6 if we needed it? And even today, it's very hard to find those places where you drop your kid off and he can stay and live here for almost the whole time. So we came, and we thought we would leave in first grade because, you know, Milford's got excellent schools, and I think that that's great. And of course, by the first grade, we were completely hooked, and we couldn't leave. And by then, we had Davis, who's the D in CCDS, and he had joined the Montessori room as well, and was in there with his brother. Like, how awesome is that? Two brothers together in the Montessori room. And so I took advantage of that, or Brian and I did, and we, you know, enjoyed Carter going to the lower school. So a little bit about Carter. Well, let me take a step back. So I don't want to get all marketing, because I bet you about 30% of you are marketers. So I don't want to get all marketing, but I work in communications, and so much has changed, right, in 20 years at P&G. And I think about how we sell brands now, and people are so inundated with messages now, right? The traditional media, the social media, and then of course all of the media have their own media, right? Cincinnati.com and all, the Inquirer has their Twitter, their Facebook. It is unbelievably confusing when you're trying to dig through the mass of information to try and choose a school today. And that is such a parallel to buying a brand, right? And what we've known and we've tested over and over again is sometimes it's that one person, like the power of one, that one testimonial you read on Amazon, right? That one 5-star that just hits it. You're like, okay, done, that TV is what I'm gonna buy. Or there's the shampoo I want, or there's the hair color, right? And so what we're finding with Country Day and a lot of the other competitiveness, you know, in the area is sometimes it's just that one talk to one parent about one of your kids that might fit with their kids, and it can clinch the deal. And we've seen this over and over again as we've brought people onto campus. So the parallels are exactly the same in what we know is credentials, which is Country Day. The independent credentials, of course, things like National Merit Scholar numbers and things like that are really important credentials. And then, of course, it's that testimonial that clinches the deal. So Carter, we, of course, fell in love with the teachers. I already said, I remember when I was pregnant with the fourth, which was many years after Carter had started. I went to my own baby shower, and I looked around, and 80% of the people in the room were teachers and family and friends I had met at Country Day. And I knew that that would never have happened if I had gone to the Milford Public School. And that was my community. This is my community. I love my neighbors. I love my work. But the turnover in both of those areas was so high, but Country Day was always the stability. And I see a lot of you people today that I've known for 13 years just from being here. So obviously we're here as lifers, as parents as well. Another thing about Carter I use with parents, we talked a little bit about athletics. Because he's a senior, and I could get upset, it's my first, I'm really not sure about this, sending somebody off to school, but he has been able to be a super athlete here. He has tried many sports, he's excelled at many, and it's so important to him that he plays a sport every season. And what's important though is that the coaches and the teachers, which are actually the same thing, right? Coaches and teachers. They do not let him take a ride on his academics. So they know that he can take honors or APs, so they push him so that he's not only being an athlete, but he's being pushed as hard as he can with academics. And what we know about some of the other schools that are very athletically motivated, and we know which schools those are, some of those athletes get a little bit of a free ride when it comes to academics, and we know that's not going to do them any favors in college. So I know when Carter runs, he's going to run in college, he is going to be able to manage pre-med or something very difficult, as well as run, and not be a phys ed major like 80% of the kids that are going to be on that team with him. So, you know, we've all been through college ourselves, or, you know, it hasn't changed. Athletes sometimes get easier course loads, but being an athlete at Country Day, you get the best of both worlds. Was it absolutely difficult? Sure, but now he can manage, when he's in college, a difficult course load as well as his sports. Now Davis, yes, Davis. The concern for Davis was he was born with a fairly large cleft palate and lip, and we knew that just judging from our first year living in Milford and having him have these surgeries, that there were some pretty nasty people out there, and if they weren't trying to be nasty, they were just dumb, and they would say just horrible things to me as a parent about him. Asked me if I drank, asked me if, you know, when I was going to get him fixed, which he had already had his surgery. So just a lot of like strange comments coming from the people that, you know, you meet in Kroger. And I thought, you know what? He needs to be protected from these just people that don't respect kindness and understand the effects of negative language on small children. So it was so important for me to make sure that he was sheltered from all of that. And of course, little did I know that he would own his face. He's fine, he's great, but I don't know what would have happened if I had thrown him in a big classroom with some nasty kids, and maybe some teachers that didn't understand why he was taking so much time off for surgery. So Davis is, you know, so sometimes I talk to parents about some of the issues that you can have with medical problems, and on differences, you know, Rob touched on diversity. So we're from Toronto, which is massively diverse. It's an awesome city. But when I came to Cincinnati, quite frankly, I was like, whoa, where, I mean, this is 20 years ago, like, there's a couple of colors here, but not the range that I would expect from a city in America. And of course, when you get into some of these suburbs, it can be completely white, to be horribly transparent. I wanted my children to just grow up with kids and not, you know, be colorblind. And sometimes this is a touchy subject with parents, but some of them just want to talk about it. Like, you know, are there other cultures at your school other than, you know, Caucasians? And you will play schools and sports, which is funny. You know, you'll sit in the stands going, wow, it's a very homogeneous team. Sometimes you'll meet from other areas of Cincinnati. So Country Day's diversity is so important to our family because I want my kids to understand that this is just, you know, what America is and Canada. Spencer, on the end, he has a learning disability. It's not a big one. He's got ADD, which I think probably 30% of boys tend to have. I know my husband has it. I actually have it. And so when we discovered it when he was 18 months old here at Country Day, the teachers all jumped in and helped. And again, he has been supported, and we get daily emails. The teams work together on plans with him in terms of keeping him organized and on task, but he's learning how to be a great student with ADD. And people talk about ADD here like it's okay. It's not like a label. And again, I was very afraid he would be the back of the classroom kid, playing video games after school and probably hanging out at the UDF, which is probably what it would be if he had his choice. So now he stays here till 6 o'clock every day and does his homework under supervision. And so our last boy, Cooper, is in kindergarten. He's in the Montessori program. All of them went through Montessori, which is fabulous for my boys because they're all attention deficit, right? So it's great. But it was such a kind place for Cooper to move into. And I have a little bit of a funny story about Cooper because, you know, I wasn't really anxious to have another tuition at Country Day. I was like, yeah, 4. And I held off as long as I could. all of them started when they were 18 months or 3, like they were tiny little guys, and I'm like, you know what, I'm sharing a nanny with someone that's costing me $150 a week. Why mess with this? So I had him going to a little preschool down the street, which we, you know, stone's throw from here, in a church, and it's pretty famous. And he went there for 3 years, and I love that place, don't get me wrong. And he came out of there, and I put him in kindergarten, and it was horrible. He had a great time, don't get me wrong, but didn't know a thing, didn't know anything. And I kind of knew, because I knew the other boys and where they were when they were 3 and 4, but this poor little guy didn't know his letters, he didn't know how to sound out letters. And so we sent him through kindergarten again. So my little idea of saving money kind of backfired because we did kindergarten twice. And so just note to self that sometimes that doesn't pay. But you know, all kidding aside, you know, it's so true, right? The earlier you start, the better the results. Remember that tagline from a while ago? And it's so true because the sooner you get them in, and you can certainly see the results a lot faster. So we won't tell him that story, though. No one knows that he repeated kindergarten. So Cooper's only got a couple years with his brother, right? And I'm not going to get upset. But, because maybe Carter will go to school in UC or something close. But it's important I wanted my boys to see each other every day. And that's another thing, when you're talking to big families, it is important because when Carter and Cooper see each other and they give each other a hug during the day, or they sit together, they do the wrapping, and oh my gosh, that Halloween parade when the seniors came down to the lower school, and Cooper's like, that's my brother. I mean, he was a rock star. And so those moments you can't put money on, right? Because they're with each other all day. And by the way, if there's like a tornado or, you know, something weird happens, I have a way to get a hold of all of them. They're in one spot. It's so important, right? You don't have kids in, like, I know families with kids across 3 or 4 schools, and it's very stressful for a parent that's working to have that happen. I call this the all-inclusive resort. That's my new tagline, okay? We're launching that later, but if you think about it, right? I don't have to do music lessons, I don't have to do swimming lessons, I don't have any like tutoring, it's all here, right? So, you know, and I can just simple text and get them out of here. And that's it. I want to introduce Ken, because I could talk all day. So Ken was attacked by me one day, but I knew him, okay? So he started with P&G, new hire, young pup, and I remember meeting him on his first week, and we worked together for a couple of years, and then, you know, we separated and went different places, and one day I'm in the library, you know, getting the kindergarten assessment done, which he failed, and Ken was sitting there, I'm like, I know you, and we struck up a conversation, and I don't remember what I talked about, but it was probably everything, and his mind blew up, and then I do remember talking about financial assistance, though, and this is one more point I want to leave you with. I swear, this point is the clincher. So the young families at P&G, they're, you know, have 1 or 2 kids, maybe more, and they're worried about this tuition, right? It's the cost of Ohio State, except you're not leaving your kid there, like you don't get boarding here. So it's a hard sell, but when you talk to them about how generous the school is with financial assistance, that people even like me, you know, we have a dual income, we have a pretty good situation, are still eligible to knock off some of that hurt. It helps because it gets us to that level where we're at the same playing field as a Moeller or a St. X or a Notre Dame or something else. So it really helps to have that transparent conversation. There's a lot of money to be had. Sorry, maybe you don't want me to say that. It's a lot of money, and you should apply for financial assistance. So I know I remember telling Ken that, and I don't know if it had an effect, but he's here, and he has a story to tell. So with that, Ken Ratterman.
Thank you for the introduction, Sherry. My name's Ken Ratterman. I've got a 3rd grader here. His name's Kellen. There he is. He's in Ms. Gardner's class this year. We've also got 2 younger brothers as well, too. But about 2 years ago, we live up in one of the northern suburbs, and Kellen was in the 2nd grade, and he was in a big public school. He was in a class of about 30, and he was just having a rough year. He was just struggling. big class size, not a whole lot of one-on-one attention. One of the schools that had started cutting out a lot of the fun programs, and he just kind of lost his engagement in the whole learning process. So, we felt like, well, we can do better than this. So we started having conversations, should we start looking at private schools? Neither of us were very familiar with the whole process. And we just started talking to some neighbors, and one of our neighbors at the time was the Page family. And my wife had a conversation with Hope, and I remember after the conversation, she came home that night, she's like, we gotta check out Cincinnati Country Day. I was like, okay, the one down in Indian Hill, right? So it was kind of, a little intimidating at first. It's like, well, how can we get our kid down there? It's like 45 minutes away. I'm sure it's really expensive, and lots of different barriers that we were talking. But some of the conversations we had with Hope, and we had a couple other after that, they talked about the accessibility of the school. There's busing programs, there's people that carpool, there's financial aid available, but also you could really tell the passion coming from the Page family about the school. They loved the positive, fun atmosphere here. Their kids were very comfortable here. They kept going on and on about how happy their kids' learning was at the school. So we decided to apply just to kind of see what happened, check the place out. Like Sherry said, the website was awesome, so that kind of got us, hooked from the start. And as Sherry was mentioning, I brought Kellen here on a Saturday morning 2 years ago, and I was sitting there filling out the paperwork, and I say, hey Ken, and I look up Sherry. And it's been a while since we had seen each other, so we kind of got caught up on the office rumor and everything. But then, Sherry started kind of going into conversation about the school and everything, and similar to the Page family, you could really just tell the passion about the school from Sherry. Again, how much one-on-one interaction they receive, how high quality the education is, and how the teachers really get those real-world connections to the students. And then, following that, Sherry kind of took me on an impromptu tour of the place. And, you could just tell how proud she was of the place and how comfortable she, her family, and her kids were at the school. So I remember calling my wife as soon as we left the evaluation. It's like, this place is awesome. So, everything worked out. We got Kellen here. He had a fabulous first year. We actually decided to repeat the second grade that year. But he did a wonderful job. He had Ms. Peters for a teacher last year, and just a great year. And we were just, every time we would come here, we just could not get over the energy of the place and just how positive of a learning atmosphere the place is. We could tell Kellen was comfortable here. Every single time, we utilize the busing system here. So every time I drop him off and pick him up from school each day, he's always in a good mood. Was not the case before, but he's always excited to tell me about what he did that day. He's always jumping out of the car, getting on the bus. So, that's really never been an issue. And it's funny too, because while we were here doing the evaluation, Kellen came back from the evaluations before he started stuff, and he has a huge grin on his face walking back with the evaluator, and he points over to the evaluator's name tag, and it was Ms. Morarity. And Morarity is actually my wife's maiden name, so we kind of figured, well, there's a not too distant family relation there too. So at that point, we just kind of thought it was a sign. But like I said, last year and this year for Kellen have been just absolutely fantastic. We've been blown away. There have been so many times my wife and I would look at each other and shake our heads and be like, man, we wish we could have gone here. The last couple of years, there's been lots of little things too to just kind of make this place special and really kind of, Sherry's point, set this place apart. Some of the things, I'd be happy to talk offline, but there's a couple of points. Swimming is part of the gym program. Having foreign language in the lower school. Kellen does guitar lessons with Mr. Marin that he thoroughly enjoys. The outdoor education, the Nutcracker program. To Sherry's point, all students being at the same location. In the previous district we were in, they would have to go to 5 different schools throughout their education. And just some of the other traditions like the clap out. So Kellen loved the clap out, and he's a huge fan of IU for those who know you, and he was really excited to say that, there are quite a few kids actually going to IU last year. So in conclusion, he's had a great time here, and for the last 2 years, his 2 younger brothers keep asking us the question, when can we go to Kellen's school? To them it's not Country Day, it's Kellen's school. So we've applied for both of them to be here next year, so we can't wait to get them here and have the whole gang here. So thank you.
So I'm doing a dress rehearsal in my administrative meeting today, and the CFO, Todd Witt, who's always assessing our risk, is like, did you fully vet Sherry McMaster's 3-minute speech? I said, we can trust her. A really cool thing happened a couple weeks ago. The USA Today published an article, 9 questions to help you pick the best private school. And the author was Pat O'Brien, who made the choice 2 years ago to send Sean here. And what's really cool is if you read this article, and we have some out there for you, it was really his 9 questions that he asked to come here and the areas that he felt Country Day shines. And so if you read it through that lens, you'll really see that he was really talking about picking Cincinnati Country Day School. So it was pretty cool. It was fun working with him on that project. So let me update you on a couple other things. I take full responsibility. We're running a little late, but hopefully we're keeping you informed and entertained, and I apologize for that, but this is all pretty exciting stuff, so we'll go through it. We've completed the west side of campus. I'll show you a map in a minute, and we're working on now the north side of campus with a playscape, the Leonard Aquatic Center. Mike and Susie Leonard have been generous enough to pledge to build us an aquatic center. With that opportunity, we're going to look to enhance our indoor athletic facilities. That's in the planning stages and then into the fundraising stages there. So this is our campus. We've looked at the west side of campus, which was the lower school and the tennis complex and the fields next to that. So we began by refurbishing the lower school 2 years ago. We put new windows, roof, HVAC, all very sexy projects, right? You want to give money to a new roof? That's, yeah, fun to get donors. So that's where the board really stepped up and provided the foundation of getting this started. So this is me on the roof learning about windows and HVACs and things like that. Then we progressed out to the tennis pavilion and got more field space here, more field space behind the tennis pavilion. That was very exciting. This has been a great, not only for tennis, but around football games and other areas. But we had the groundbreaking at the end of school last year, and we've been frantically building the new addition to the lower school. And you can see the progress. This was Friday, 3 days ago. And it looked like a total war zone. Just construction people everywhere. So Friday we were 95% done. Today we're 98% done. Please know we're still a work in progress, but it is so exciting to see the space. And I decided not to do a new picture, but to do the rendering of this. And so you're really in for a treat when we walk down to the lower school, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So back to our future plans on the north side of campus. Here's a blow-up of it. And so to give you your bearings, this is the North Gym complex here. This is our youth soccer field. That's the early childhood house. And this is the Montessori and pre-K play space here, playground here. Montessori rocks right there. The first thing we need to do is to get this maintenance shed away from the children and create a playscape there, or a play area there. So that's going to be our first move there. We need to use some of this area for the aquatic center and potential connection to the athletic facilities. And then we really need a long-range plan what we need to do with the early childhood house. And so right now we're really focusing on what the plans are going to be for this north end of campus. And so we already have some funds to put towards that. We have some ideas of what we need to do, but that's what we're going to be looking at, and you'll get some updates as we meet in the future. So in 2014, 2015, so next school year, we're going to build the playscape. We're going to design the Leonard Family Aquatic Center, see what we can do with athletic adjacencies to that, and how can we increase and enhance our athletic facilities when we're doing that. And then we need to do the fundraising beyond the aquatic center in terms of what to do with that. We're also working in conjunction with Cincinnati Aquatic Center to see Aquatic Club to see what type, how much they can help with the pool as well. So that's all just a work in progress, but we're here today to fill you in on what we're working on. Here's some ideas for the playscape, a fun area. This is what as my mind's eye, when I think about the playscape, the first feature is going to be just like the Cincinnati Nature Centers with the stream going down the middle of it. We will definitely have the stream, we'll have vegetable gardening, we'll have a butterfly garden, and we'll have some fun areas like that as well, but that's a work in progress is designing the playscape. Quick development update. This is a great, the Girl Scouts they raised some money and gave money towards the lower school. How awesome is that? So they presented me with the check and they're all very proud of their philanthropy and just wanted to thank the Girl Scouts for that. We raised last fiscal year, we raised $2.33 million with annual giving, country day, and capital gifts. We have a campaign goal of $15 million, and you can see the different buckets that we're putting it in: annual funds, scholarship aid, faculty resources, and facilities improvements. We're about $11.5 million raised of the $15 million. We raised $3 million total for the lower school. We've paid for the tennis courts and are moving along nicely. For the faculty resources, we want to raise $2 million total to make sure we're getting the best teachers, that we are fairly compensating the current teachers and providing continuing education for the teachers. And then we also want to raise $3 million for financial aid to be able to make Country Day affordable for those, and that we can attract the best and the brightest to come to Country Day. This school year, we've opened the addition. Right now, we're really focusing on the endowment fundraising, so you'll be hearing more about the endowment. We're designing the playscape, and we're also going to be putting in an art gallery in the hallway as you walk towards the lower school. I'm right outside here, so that should be coming this spring as well. So this spring, I told you we've done the surveys for the accreditation, and the visiting team will be here for 3 days of kicking the tires and getting a sense of who we are as a school. As I said, what I'm proud of what we do as a school, and I'm proud of is that we are seeking improvement. So I really want to say from this, what can we do better? So what we're going to do right after we get the report from the visiting team, we're going to work on our long-range plan. How can we improve programmatically, academically, the community? Will MSA help us? And what can we do with the wellness program? We'll really tighten up our facilities master plan, and then we'll get a 5-year financial plan to ensure the sustainability. Again, this is a quote I started with, but when I looked at this quote again, it really should be families, right? And so I don't think Freeman was quite there. I think the special sauce, the real next level of education, is not just giving ownership to the student, but giving ownership to the families, okay? Obviously, ultimately, the child has to take the reins and have the ownership. But I think the really great schools are going to be the ones that share the ownership with the families. And so that's what I'm here to talk to you about tonight, is sharing that ownership. And it's working. This ability of all of us to work together is working. The ladies that are Ann Meyer and Julie Gentili chose this quote as the theme for Country Day. So it's from Sandra Day O'Connor. We don't accomplish anything in this world alone, and whatever happens is a result of the whole tapestry of one's life and all of the weavings of individual threads from one to another that create something. So I thought that that tied together what we're trying to accomplish tonight. So of course, please come to Country Day. Let's give Julie and Ann a hand for running Country Day. The penultimate slide. What I'm asking for you to do is to join the collaborative. There are a lot of different ways to get involved, and whatever your time or capacity allows. But I do think the more you get involved, the more you'll enjoy Country Day, the stronger Country Day will be, the stronger school your child will be. So I do ask for your involvement. We're ready for it, and there are the various ways. So let's go down to the lower school, have some champagne, and celebrate there. So before you get up, we're going to go out the front door, along the front path, and into the front door of the new lower school, which we're using for the very first time. Thank you all very much. To cover here, and then we'll call it a night. The first thing is we had over 176 donors to the lower school project, and it truly takes a village to create something like this. So let's begin by giving all of them a hand. Now I'd like to specifically thank 6 of the lead donors, and with whom this project would not have happened. The lead donors who are here tonight and really made this project happen, and we would not be sitting in this building if it weren't for them. Peter and Betsy Niehoff, who are both graduates of the school and have been with this project from beginning to end, and have been really mavericks to make this happen. So Peter and Betsy Niehoff. The stage is named in their honor, which is the stage down there, the Keller stage. Let's give the Kellers a hand. Chris Port's class of '92, a dedicated alumnus and trustee. His team from Townscape was instrumental in the concrete installation. The risers are named in his honor. They're called the Ports risers. Jason and Trina Fraley, are you here tonight? Let's give them a hand. Finally, the Louise Taft Semple Foundation name appears across our campus, including the lower school preschool wing, and now is featured on the lower school's main entrance. Woody Taft, the trustee of the Taft Semple Foundation, is with us today. Let's give him a hand. Library. As in the old campus, the old school, we had Hoppel Library. The Hoppels are such a long tradition at Cincinnati Country Day School. The tradition lives on, and so this is the Hoppel Library. Bill and Mary are here somewhere back there. Bill and Mary. Thank you, so bear with me. The Board of Trustees, can all the board members just quick raise your hand, board members? They've been incredible in funding, in planning, having the foresight to build such an incredible structure, so let's give them a round of applause. Michael McInturf and Associates with David Toombs and John Stockton and Company. MMA people, please raise your hand. Michael in the back. The Miller Valentine Group was the construction engineers behind this. Peter Horton, Matt Packer, and Dave Caston. Raise your hands. Let's give them a hand, please. Mike Bush has been putting out little fires, literally, and maintenance staff has been doing an amazing job, so let's thank them. A special thanks to Eric Fouché and the Development Office for all their hard work pulling this together. Eric is heading back to Maine on February 7th. We're going to miss him dearly, so Eric Fouché. Tina Mullen and the lower school staff for putting up with us and all the construction. Created a really great structure here, but thank you for your patience, lower school staff. Finally, the person who endured the courage and the patience, Jen Aquino, thank you for all your help. And now a toast to Cincinnati Country Day School. Let's raise our glasses to this wonderful new space that embodies Country Day's spirit and its positive momentum. Cheers!